Dude, why do you never have Yoshis, man?
I had like mazillion Yoshis.
I come into your house all the time and you never have any Yoshis. One of my absolutely favorite parts of playing video games is the aha moment. You know, the point where you figure out a solution to a puzzle or something moves or clicks just right and you feel like you understand it, like you figured something out, you know? And it's a difficult situation to develop because if the player is immediately told how to do something, then there's never a time where they figure it out for themselves. And if the solution is too esoteric, then the player gets frustrated and they never really feel that joy and that sense of accomplishment. The middle ground between those two things is the perfect balance, and that holy grail is even more difficult to achieve on a consistent basis time after time as you move through a game's skill progression. I find that Yoshi's Cookie for the NES represents an excellent example of multiple aha moments that are perfectly distributed along its playtime. It's a simpler example, but it's a great way to showcase a well-executed implementation. The progression in Yoshi's Cookie is beautifully streamlined, and the game teaches itself in a really interesting way. Yoshi's Cookie is a puzzle game where you need to match rows of cookies to score points. And when a player first encounters the play space, somebody who's never played the game before, they'll generally chase the cookie they want to move, lock it into the cursor, and then move it. But their first several sort of aha moments come very quickly. They discover that they can shift entire rows without holding on to that particular cookie, and that they can jump between sides of the play area by moving off the edges. As a player uses those newfound skills to try and make matches as fast as possible, they'll quickly discover they have Yoshi-shaped cookies filling up their board. And this is a natural sort of lead-in to the next level of play, which is the power-up bar, which is right above their play space. By cashing in these Yoshis, the player can achieve the randomly scrolling power-ups that show up there. And at this point, you know, generally the power-ups, Panic and Blind, will kind of seem like they're the best option, slow the other player down so maybe you can get a move, and then, you know, slowly from that, they'll start to put increased value on the plus and minus points powers, because those are good too. But inevitably, you know, due to curiosity or mistiming the wheel, the player will find themselves using the slave power. And that's where the game sort of slows down a little bit and distributing the aha moments, and that's the greatest gap because the next one's a doozy. What the player will find next is that by activating the slave power, the eventual realization is that if you can control the other person's board, then you can cash in their Yoshis. Not only depriving them of, you know, their way to get power-ups, but potentially even using them to give yourself points. Now, at this level of gameplay, the game has evolved from a simple game of trying to make matches as fast as possible and has become a more finely balanced game of strategy. You need to save your Yoshis for the right moment, but having too many can kind of cause you to end up with an unexpected waterfall when you're trying to make the regular matches. In addition, the more Yoshis you have, the more vulnerable you are to the other player actually slaving you. So balanced on top of this give and take, there's a timer at the bottom, and it'll cause you to lose the entire match if you go too long without making a set of cookies. So you can't just sit there forever and wait for the perfect moment. Not only does Yoshi's Cookie teach itself in a way that lets the player feel like they're figuring it out at a well-measured pace, it also shows its elegance in that with each increasing level of play, the player will be focusing on a different part of the screen, but in sequence. First, the main sort of attention point is their own board, then their own power-up wheel, then the opponent's board, so they can see, you know, what the attacks that they're using are doing, and finally, when they're trying to slave the other player, they're watching the other player's power-up wheel to achieve the best advantage. More of the game screen requires the player's attention, and a smooth step-up as they reach higher levels of gameplay. Yoshi's Cookie is one of my favorite games because it has enough depth to be a satisfying multiplayer experience, but it also remains very streamlined. I love the way that it subtly teaches you how to play the game, but lets you feel like you're figuring it out step by step instead of being told how to play with something like a tutorial. This measured pace and the almost guaranteed transition from one aha moment to the next is a crystallized and pure example of a way to do gameplay progression well. This has been Sam from Select Characters. Thanks for watching.